If Zimbabwe succeeds with gold on two fronts, it could shake the foundations of the global gold market and monetary policy around the world. Let's talk about it as we explore. Headline from October 2024, Zimbabwe's gold-backed currency loses half of its value. It looked like it was destined for failure. But then we see other headlines that are starting to occur that show some promise, such as the IMF wants Zimbabwe's gold-backed ZiG to become sole currency. The most popular video on this channel is about how Zimbabwe has thumbed their nose at the IMF after they wanted them to get rid of their gold coins. Now, with the status of those gold coins and as to how they circulate, well, I'm not really sure exactly where that lies. News out of that part of the world is kind of hard to come by. But nonetheless, those coins were a huge part and is what has led to Zimbabwe's gold-backed currency, the first nation in the world to do that since many nations had abandoned the gold standard in their countries. But this is big news. Even if it were to fail, nonetheless, it was a good effort by Zimbabwe, but that's not exactly what's happening. The latest headline now is that Zimbabwe's gold-backed currency is now stable. But there is some doubt, and there's some questions about this, but it's running through some hurdles, and it's staying, and it has some staying power right now. So that's very, very good. And that's the first peg of this. And I think the next peg that I'm going to be talking about later in the video is something that I think will revolutionize and help stabilize it even more. Now, for those of us who have gold in our portfolios and silver, we can be our own central banks by having gold and silver in our portfolios. That's where Summit Metals comes in, a fast-growing bullion company with excellent customer service and fast shipping, so check them out at summitmetals.com. Elevate your wealth by being your own central bank with Summit Metals. Now, out of Harare and Johannesburg, South Africa, this piece is from Reuters about Zimbabwe's gold-backed currency now has more than 100% reserve cover and is stable. That's right, according to the central bank, but doubts over its credibility remain underscored by a persistent premium in the parallel market. Now, we know there's been a lot of shakeups in the global gold market, especially with the Shanghai Gold Exchange with high premiums there, but they are now suffering because of this. It's been an unstable market for sure because of tariffs and the like, or the fear of tariffs coming to gold. We saw that most recently here with Switzerland. Turns out that was fake news. But the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has kept its benchmark rate unchanged at 35%, citing a stable exchange rate as one of the reasons and reported total reserves of $701 million. The bank said that a portion of transactions carried out using the Zimbabwe gold currency, which is known as the ZiG, surged to 43% in May from 26% in April of 2024, which was the month that it was introduced. That's a pretty good track record so far, especially when there's a lot of doubts. I mean, Zimbabwe is not a nation known for stable currencies, as we know from recent history, as I've discussed on this channel many, many times. Decades of economic instability and currency devaluations mean most people still use the U.S. dollar for most purchases. But the authorities are hoping that the ZiG's gold backing will give Zimbabweans the confidence to adopt it for everyday transactions. That's right, because if you rely on dollars, well, even though they are one of the most stable currencies in the world, and they're obviously the dominant currency of the world, it is a losing store of value. Whereas a gold-backed currency is backed by gold, and if they can play their cards right, and they can minimize corruption or remove it completely, well, people will have faith in it, and then they can safely de-dollarize essentially and goldize, if that's ever such a word. Yes, indeed. But ZiG is our national currency, And as the central bank, we are committed to ensuring its success by maintaining all the fundamental characteristics of sound money, including its function as a reliable store of value, according to Reserve Bank Governor John Mushayevanu wrote in response to Reuters questions. The Reserve Bank has learned from previous currency failures that maintaining optimum money supply and ensuring monetary stability is vital. Indeed, it is. In fact, that's one of the functions of the Reserve Bank here in the United States, known as the Federal Reserve. Of course, they have been failing in that function as they have been printing much more money than what is needed in order to pay for all these wasteful government programs that we've got here. But nonetheless, Zimbabwe appears to be doing it right here. And this other news I'm going to be telling you about next is going to, I think, only embolden this currency even further. Yes, indeed. Despite the bank's assurances, the gap between the official exchange rate and the parallel market remains about 20%. The rate has been stable for more than 3 months, according to black market trader Pearson Tambudze, attributing the stability of the scarcity of the local currency rather than restored confidence. There isn't a lot of zig in the market, he said. The International Monetary Fund has welcomed the zig stability, but is urging Zimbabweans to adopt tighter money growth limits, a more transparent foreign exchange market, and to make progress on clearing an estimated $12.2 billion in external arrears. Finance Minister Mitude Nkube, meanwhile, expressed hope last month that currency stability and appropriate monetary policy would enable Zimbabwe to raise $2.6 billion to bridge finance by mid-2026. But investors remain cautious. And it's right to do that, by the way, no question about it. We wouldn't invest in Zimbabwe at the current stages. The country needs to have a lot more development before we would consider it. It says Jetro Skittin at LGT Capital Partners, economist who flagged concerns over Zimbabwe's reserve cushion, which stands at 0.08 months or 0.8 months of import cover, well short of the IMF's recommended 3-month safety net. In terms of priority, I would consider the clearance of arrears and multilateral creditors to be most important, said Lal Begbie, an economist at Oxford Economics. 2 earlier IMF staff monitored programs collapsed within 15 months. And Begbie predicted similar outcomes for future efforts. Meanwhile, we are likely years away from the IMF providing concessional financing to Zimbabwe, even if the country does everything right, which itself is not likely, he said. So this is cautious, I guess, pessimism to some degree, this piece, but so far it's holding on. But this new catalyst, I think, is something that very well could essentially save the ZiG currency, because more gold very well could be coming to the nation of Zimbabwe from within the nation of Zimbabwe. That's right. Because this piece here from mining.com says Zimbabwean labs are overwhelmed as the gold rush in that country intensifies. That's right. There's a gold rush happening in Zimbabwe right now. And you know what that means? Well, they can utilize that gold to stabilize their gold-backed currency, the ZiG. Zimbabwean testing laboratories are buckling under pressure from a dramatic increase in mineral samples as mining companies accelerate exploration efforts driven by soaring gold prices that reached a record $3,500 per ounce back in April. The precious metals' meteoric rise, fueled by geopolitical tensions, central bank purchases, and economic uncertainty surrounding President Trump's tariff policies, has sparked renewed interest in Zimbabwe's mining sector after years of decline. The southern African nation's gold production has surged 40%. That's right. That's a huge increase to 24.3 tons in the first 7 months of 2025. With annual output expected to surpass 40 tons, a dramatic recovery from just 3 tons in 2008, following decades of political and economic turmoil. 2008 is indeed a very important date in Zimbabwean history, as that is when we saw the second largest inflationary crisis in the history of the planet occur with the Zimbabwean dollar at the time. In fact, the $100 trillion bill is something that is world famous now and selling for quite a premium. I have a few of those notes, showed them on this channel many times, but those notes essentially, if we equate them to US dollars now, could pay off our national debt almost 3 times over. Now, Craig Harvey, who's the vice president for technical services at a major producer, Caledonia Mining, reported a significant delays in receiving laboratory results for exploration samples. It's frustrating for us, but in the Zimbabwean context, that's actually very encouraging, Harvey explained to analysts, noting increased competition from numerous companies entering the market. The exploration boom reflects Zimbabwe's untapped potential, describing the country as completely underexplored. Caledonia's profits jumped to $34.8 million in the 6 months to June, compared to $12.25 million previously, benefiting from increased production and higher gold prices. So that is exactly what we're seeing here. And if they could tap into some of that gold for themselves to be able to back that currency, well, it might put more faith in the ZIG. And of course, economic activity can't hurt. Increased economic activity from increased mining production of gold and providing jobs and benefits to those who take part. Well, it's a win-win situation for Zimbabwe. So there you have it. Hope you found this story informative, insightful, and educational. I like to bring you the latest news in the world of precious metals, and I hope you will check out the videos here at the end screen of this video as well. And I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.